The transport vessel shuddered as it docked with Station Outpost Gamma 7. Commander Rolf gripped the safety rail with his good hand, while his injured arm hung limp in its medical wrap. 8 months of combat had left their marks across his scales. Deep scars traced paths down his neck and shoulders. His left eye saw everything through a haze of damage that even modern medicine struggled to repair. Other soldiers moved past him toward the exit. They laughed and joked about shore leave. Rolf barely heard them. His mind was somewhere else entirely. 3 faces filled his thoughts. Small faces with bright eyes and sharp teeth. His children, his hatchlings who he had left behind when duty called him away. The docking tube stretched before him like a tunnel through time. Every step brought him closer to them. Every step also reminded him how long he had been gone. 8 months, nearly a year. For young hatchlings, that might as well be a lifetime. Would they even remember him? The thought made his chest tighten. Station Gamma 7 bustled with activity as he emerged into the main corridor. Beings from dozens of species went about their business. Traders hawked goods. Engineers rushed to repairs. Civilians navigated around military personnel. Rolf pushed through the crowd without acknowledging anyone. His focus remained singular. His quarters were on level 14, Section C. His children waited there. Lieutenant Horvath intercepted him near the elevator banks. Her expression showed concern as she took in his injuries. She had served under him for 5 years and knew him well enough to read his mood. Commander, medical needs to clear you first. Protocol requires later, Rolf said. The word came out harsher than intended. Horvath stepped aside but called after him. Sir, you should know that things changed while you were gone. Your quarters, the situation with the elevator doors closed, cutting off her words. Rolf leaned against the wall as the lift climbed. Changed? What did that mean? His heart began to race. Were his children all right? Had something happened? He had received reports that they were fine, but reports could hide ugly truths. The war had been brutal. His unit had faced enemy forces that showed no mercy. He carried wounds that would never fully heal. But none of that mattered if his children were safe. They were all he had left after their mother died. They were his reason for continuing to fight, his reason for surviving when others did not. Level 14 arrived too slowly and too quickly at the same time. Rolf stepped into the corridor and immediately noticed the quiet. This section usually echoed with noise. His hatchlings were not known for peaceful behavior. Skarl, Naira, and Pix had terrorized 3 previous caretakers before Rolf deployed. The silence felt wrong. His door recognized him and slid open. The interior of his quarters looked different. Cleaner, more organized, but also more lived in somehow. Small touches that had not been there before. A blanket draped over furniture. Strange, colorful drawings attached to walls. The scent of unfamiliar cooking lingered in the air, mixed with the familiar smell of his children. Soft music played from somewhere deeper in the quarters. Human music, if he recognized the style correctly. Rolf moved carefully through the main room toward the sleeping area. His warrior instinct screamed at the strangeness of everything. This was his home, but it felt transformed into something he did not recognize. The door to the sleeping chamber stood partially open. Rolf approached it slowly. The music grew louder, a gentle melody that seemed designed to soothe. He pushed the door wider and froze. His 3 children lay in a pile on the floor cushions. Their wings were tucked close to their bodies. Their breathing came deep and even in sleep. They looked peaceful, content, completely relaxed in a way he had never seen them before. But that was not what stopped Rolf in his tracks, that a human lay beneath them. Or rather, the hatchlings had arranged themselves on and around the human like he was part of their nest. The man wore a janitor's uniform. His weathered face showed age lines around closed eyes. One of his arms pillowed Pix's head. Naira had curled against his side. Skarl, the eldest and most aggressive, had draped himself across the human's legs like a guardian. Rolf stood in the doorway, unable to process what he was seeing. His children were apex predators, even as hatchlings. Their bite could pierce steel. Their claws could rend flesh. They had been born from a species that the galaxy feared. Yet here, they slept peacefully with one of the most fragile species in known space. The human should be dead. That was the only logical conclusion. But he breathed steadily. More than that, he looked comfortable, like this was normal. Like sleeping beneath 3 dragon hatchlings was just another evening. Rolf must have made some sound because the human's eyes opened. The man looked at him without alarm, without fear, just a calm assessment followed by what appeared to be recognition. The human carefully extracted his arm from beneath Pix's head. He moved with practiced ease, clearly having done this before. The hatchling grumbled in sleep, but did not wake. The human stood slowly and gestured toward the door. He wanted to talk somewhere else, somewhere that would not disturb the sleeping children. Rolf backed into the main room. His mind struggled to form questions, to understand what was happening. The human followed him out and closed the sleeping chamber door softly. He turned to face Rolf with a slight smile. His posture showed no tension, no nervousness at being alone with a heavily armed and clearly confused warrior. "Commander Rolf, I assume," the human said quietly. His voice matched his weathered appearance. "I'm Denyrite. Station maintenance. I've been watching your kids while you were away." Watching them. Such a simple phrase for what appeared to be an impossible task. Rolf found his voice finally. "You're alive." Danny's smile widened slightly. "Yeah, I noticed that too. Been surprising myself for about 8 months now." Rolf stared at the human for a long moment. Danny Wright looked completely ordinary. Average height for his species. Graying hair. Hands marked with old scars from manual labor. Nothing about him suggested capability for surviving 3 predatory hatchlings. Yet here he stood, calm and uninjured. How? Rolf managed to ask. The single word carried the weight of 1,000 questions. Danny moved toward the small kitchen area and began preparing what smelled like tea. His movements showed familiarity with the space. He knew where everything was kept. "That's a big question, Commander. Maybe we should start with why I'm here at all." Rolf followed, but kept his distance. His mind drifted back 8 months to the desperate days before his deployment. The war had escalated rapidly. His unit needed him immediately, but he had 3 young hatchlings with no family to care for them. Their mother had died 2 years prior. Her clan rejected the children because Rolf was not pure bloodline. His own clan lived systems away and had never accepted his mate choice. Station Gamma 7 had been their compromise home, a frontier outpost where mixed families raised fewer eyebrows. But when war came, Rolf faced an impossible situation. Military regulations forbade bringing children into combat zones. Leaving them alone meant certain disaster. At 4 years old, hatchlings needed constant supervision. Without it, they would destroy everything around them or hurt themselves trying. Station Administrator Quilvin had suggested the human, a newly arrived maintenance worker who needed extra income. Quilvin claimed the man had experience with difficult situations. Rolf had been skeptical but desperate. Humans were support species. Fragile, unsuited for combat or confrontation. How could one possibly manage 3 Draxian hatchlings? But options had run out. Rolf left emergency protocols. Weapons sealed in case the human lost control of the situation. Medical teams on standby. He had expected to return a tragedy. Instead, he found peace. "I remember you," Rolf said slowly. "You seemed confident when we met. Too confident for someone about to care for predators." Danny poured tea into 2 cups. He offered one to Rolf. "I was terrified, actually. Just good at hiding it. Spent my whole life hiding fear. Construction work, military transports, frontier stations. You learn to look calm, even when you're screaming inside. Yet you accepted the job, needed the money. Also figured 3 kids couldn't be worse than some of the things I'd survived." Danny sipped his tea. "I was wrong about that second part for the first week at least." Rolf took the offered cup, but did not drink. "Tell me what happened." Danny settled into a chair with a long exhale. His eyes took on a distant look. "First day, I thought I might die. Scarl tried to establish dominance by breathing fire at me. Burned off my eyebrows. Naira stole my tools and hid them in the ventilation system. Pix had a panic attack and nearly clawed through a wall trying to escape. They were testing me, seeing what I would do." "And what did you do?" I didn't fight back, didn't try to dominate them. Just showed them I was hurt when Scarl burned me. Let Naira see that without tools I couldn't fix things that were broken. Sat with Pix during his attack until he calmed down. Danny shrugged. I treated them like scared kids instead of monsters. Rolf processed this. In Draxian culture, children learned through hierarchy. The strong led. The weak followed. Dominance established order. But Danny described something different. Something that should not have worked. The second day, Scarl tried to bite me. Danny continued. Got my arm pretty good. Drew blood. I didn't hit him. Didn't yell. Just showed him the wound and walked away. I think that confused him more than anything. He expected retaliation. Weakness invites further attacks among my people. Maybe, but I wasn't showing weakness. I was showing him that his actions had consequences beyond just winning or losing a fight. Danny's expression grew thoughtful. That night, Scarl brought me a medical kit. Didn't say anything, just dropped it by my door and left. That was the turning point with him. Rolf found himself leaning forward despite his intention to remain distant. And the others? Naira took longer. She's smart, kept testing boundaries in clever ways. Hiding things, breaking things, making messes. I realized she was bored, so I taught her human games. Strategy games mostly. Cards, chess. She loved them. Started challenging me every evening. We still play. The image of his cunning daughter playing human games seemed impossible. Yet Rolf could picture it clearly. Naira would appreciate the mental challenge. Pix was different, Danny said. His voice softened. He wasn't testing me. He was genuinely scared. Nightmares every night. Anxiety whenever loud noises happened. He missed you desperately. I started sleeping near them, just being present. He would crawl over and sleep against me. After a while, the others joined. Became routine. You slept with them. Rolf stated it flatly. With predators capable of killing you accidentally. They're children, Commander. Scared children who miss their father. I couldn't fix that, but I could be there. Danny met Rolf's gaze directly. I've been alone for a long time. Lost my family years ago. This job gave me purpose again. Your kids needed someone. I was here. Rolf felt something shift in his understanding. He had left expecting the worst, planning for it. Instead, this human had achieved what Draxian caretakers claimed was impossible. Not through strength or dominance. Through something Rolf was only beginning to understand. They call you Danny. They can't pronounce Daniel, so Danny works fine. Pix calls me Dan Dan sometimes. Naira uses my full name to sound formal. Scarl just grunts at me mostly, but he's gotten better. Danny smiled at some private memory. I set up video calls so they could send you messages. Did you get them? Rolf had received them. Brief recordings of his children saying they were fine. He had watched each one dozens of times during quiet moments between battles. Those messages had kept him going when nothing else could. He had not realized a human arranged them. I got them. Good. They needed to feel connected to you. I showed them pictures constantly. Told them about what you were doing. Made sure they knew you were coming back. The sleeping chamber door opened suddenly. A small face peeked out. Pix, the youngest, stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. His gaze fell on Rolf and froze. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the hatchling's eyes widened in recognition. Papa. The word came out as barely a whisper. Before Rolf could respond, Pix rushed forward. But he stopped halfway between Danny and Rolf. Uncertain, looking back and forth between the two adults. Seeking permission or reassurance. Danny gave a gentle nod. That's your dad, Pix. Just like in the pictures. Pix launched himself at Rolf. The impact nearly knocked the commander over. Small claws dug into his armor as the hatchling climbed up to press his face against Rolf's neck. The touch brought tears to Rolf's damaged eye. He wrapped his good arm around his youngest child. Behind Pix, two more figures emerged from the sleeping chamber. Scarl and Naira stood watching. Their expressions showed the same uncertainty Pix had displayed. And like their brother, both looked back at Danny before approaching their father. They needed the human's approval to greet their own parent. The realization struck Rolf like a physical blow. The reunion lasted hours. Scarl and Naira eventually rushed forward after Pix broke the tension. All three hatchlings climbed on Rolf, touching him, smelling him, checking that he was real. They asked questions faster than he could answer. Where had he been? What had he done? Did he bring them anything? When would he leave again? That last question hurt more than any wound from battle. Rolf held them close and promised he was home now. For a while at least. The words felt hollow, even as he spoke them. Military service meant he could be called away again anytime. They all knew it. Danny maintained his distance during the reunion. He busied himself in the kitchen preparing food. The domestic action seemed natural for him. Comfortable. Rolf watched him work between answering his children's questions. The human moved with quiet efficiency, knowing exactly what each hatchling preferred. How much? When they would be hungry. Eventually, the children's excitement calmed enough for them to eat. Danny served portions that looked strange to Rolf. Human vegetables mixed with protein sources suitable for Draxian digestion. Seasoning that smelled foreign but appealing. The hatchlings attacked their food with enthusiasm. Between bites, they chattered about everything Danny had taught them. Scarl talked about human combat sports he watched on videos. How Danny explained different fighting styles and philosophies. The eldest hatchling demonstrated a move badly, nearly knocking over furniture. Danny corrected his stance with gentle guidance. Rolf noticed his son actually listened to the correction. Naira pulled out a deck of cards and insisted on showing her father a new game. Human poker, apparently. She explained the rules with intense focus. Her small claws arranged the cards with surprising dexterity. Danny had helped her modify human card holders to fit Draxian hands. When she won the demonstration round, her pride was obvious. Pix remained closest to Rolf but kept looking at Danny, making sure the human was still there, still present. When the youngest started showing signs of anxiety, Danny quietly moved closer. Just his presence seemed to calm Pix down. No words needed, just proximity. Rolf ate slowly and watched everything. His children had changed during his absence. Grown, learned, developed in ways he never expected. And at the center of all of it was this human janitor who should not have survived a single night. You taught them all this? Rolf asked during a quiet moment. Danny shrugged while cleaning dishes. Taught them some. Mostly they taught themselves. I just provided structure and options. Kids are smart when you give them chances to be. Draxian hatchlings are not known for learning patience or strategy. Maybe they just needed someone patient to teach them. Danny dried a plate and put it away. Every species raises kids differently. I figured human methods might work since nothing else had. Scarl interrupted by demanding Danny play a video game with him. Some human entertainment about starship battles. Danny agreed easily and settled on the floor with the hatchling. Naira joined them. Pick stayed with Rolf, but watched the game with interest. The scene was so domestic, so normal, so completely wrong according to everything Rolf had been taught about his species. Draxian children were warriors in training. They learned discipline through challenge, strength through competition, respect through dominance hierarchy. Yet here his children sat playing human games with a maintenance worker and seemed happy. More than happy. Content. After the game ended, Naira brought out drawings she had made. Human art techniques mixed with Draxian imagery. She explained each one in detail. This one showed their family. Another depicted the station. A third illustrated a story Danny had told about Earth. The human had taught her creative expression, given her an outlet for thoughts beyond just physical action. I didn't know they could do this, Rolf admitted. Most people don't know what kids can do until someone gives them opportunity, Danny replied. He looked at Naira's artwork with genuine appreciation. She's got real talent. Been thinking about getting her better supplies. Rolf felt a strange emotion building in his chest. Not quite jealousy, not quite gratitude, something between. This human had given his children things Rolf never thought to provide. Not because Rolf was a bad father, but because he had been raised to believe certain things about what hatchlings needed. Danny had ignored all of that and simply responded to what the children actually needed. How did you know what to do? Rolf asked. Danny considered the question while Pix dozed against Rolf's side. I didn't really. Mostly I just remembered what it felt like to be a scared kid myself. What I needed then. Someone to be there. Someone who cared. Someone who set boundaries, but also showed kindness. He paused. Your kids aren't that different from human kids in the ways that matter. They want to feel safe, want to feel valued, want to know someone cares about them. We teach our young to be strong, to never show weakness. Being scared isn't weakness, Commander. It's honest. Pretending you're never scared is what causes problems. Danny's voice carried weight of experience. I let your kids see me scared sometimes. See me make mistakes. See me as a real person instead of some perfect authority figure. I think that helped. Scarl had fallen asleep during the conversation. His head rested on Danny's leg. The human absently stroked the hatchling's scales in a soothing pattern. The gesture was automatic, born from months of repetition. Rolf recognized it as the kind of touch that came from genuine affection. They love you, Rolf said quietly. Danny looked surprised by the statement. I care about them too. They're good kids. Bit of a handful sometimes, but good. A handful. Rolf almost laughed. They nearly killed 3 previous caretakers. Those caretakers probably try to treat them like animals to be controlled instead of people to be understood. Danny carefully moved Scarl's head to a cushion so he could stand. Kids know the difference. They respond better to respect than domination. Naira yawned widely and leaned against her father. Her eyes drooped with exhaustion. The excitement of reunion had worn her out. Pix was already deeply asleep. Only Rolf and Danny remained fully awake. I should let you have time with them, Danny said. He moved toward the door. I'll come back tomorrow to check on things. Maybe bring some supplies. Wait. Rolf stood carefully to avoid disturbing his sleeping children. You don't have to leave. This is more your home than mine now. Danny stopped. His expression showed uncertainty for the first time. Commander, these are your kids. You're home. I was just filling in while you were gone. You did more than fill in. You became essential to them. Rolf gestured at the transformed quarters. The evidence of care everywhere. I don't know how to be what they need. You do. You're their father. That's what they need most. But I don't know how to be the kind of father they need. The kind you showed them exists. The admission cost Rolf something to speak aloud. Pride maybe, or certainty. Teach me. Danny studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but you need to understand something first. Kids need consistency. Need to know the people in their lives will be there. Can you promise that? Rolf wanted to say yes immediately. Promise anything. But honesty demanded more. I'm still military, still subject to deployment orders. I can't promise I won't be called away again. Then we work with that reality. But when you're here, you're really here. Present. Not just physically around, but actually engaged with them. Danny's gaze was steady. They need to know they matter more to you than duty. Even if duty sometimes takes you away. The words struck deep. Rolf had always put duty first. It was the warrior way. But looking at his sleeping children curled together, he understood something new. Warriors protected. But fathers needed to do more than protect. They needed to be present. I understand, Rolf said. 3 days passed in a blur of learning. Danny stayed close despite having other work duties. Station Administrator Quilvin granted him flexible hours given the circumstances. Rolf watched everything the human did with intense focus. Taking mental notes. Trying to understand patterns. Morning started with routine. Danny woke before the hatchlings and prepared breakfast. Not elaborate meals. Simple food served at consistent times. The children woke naturally and came to the table without being called. They knew the pattern, found comfort in it. Consistency matters more than perfection, Danny explained while serving portions. They know what to expect. That makes them feel secure. Rolf had never considered that security came from predictability. Warriors valued adaptability, being ready for anything. But children needed something different. They needed to know some things would always be the same. Breakfast conversations followed patterns too. Danny asked each hatchling about their plans for the day. Listened to their answers with genuine interest. Made suggestions when asked but didn't dictate. Scarl wanted to practice combat forms. Naira planned to work on a puzzle. Pix needed new drawing supplies. Danny helped them organize these activities while Rolf observed. You let them choose what to do. Rolf asked after the children scattered to their activities. Within reason. They're learning to make decisions and live with consequences. Small choices now teach them how to make bigger choices later. Danny cleaned dishes while talking. I set boundaries, safety rules, time limits. But inside those boundaries, they get freedom. The concept was foreign to Rolf. Draxian child-rearing emphasized obedience. Following orders prepared young warriors for military life. But Danny's approach seemed to produce children who were independent and responsible. They managed their own activities, cleaned their own messes, solved their own minor conflicts that mid-morning brought lessons. Danny had established educational time, where each hatchling worked on skills appropriate to their interests. Scarl studied military history through human and Draxian texts. Naira learned mathematics through games and puzzles. Pix practiced art while listening to calm music. Danny moved between them, offering help when needed, but mostly letting them work independently. Rolf noticed the human never did the work for them. He asked questions that led children to find answers themselves, guided without controlling. What happens when they refuse to learn? Rolf asked. When they become stubborn, then we figure out why they're refusing. Usually means they're bored or frustrated or scared of failing. Danny helped Pix mix colors for a painting. Punishment doesn't fix the real problem. Understanding does. That afternoon, Scarl got angry during combat practice. He threw his training weapon and breathed fire at a wall. The scorch marks blackened the metal. Rolf tensed, ready to discipline his son. But Danny's calm voice stopped him. Scarl, take a break. Come sit with me. The hatchling snarled but obeyed. He stomped over and threw himself down next to Danny. His small body radiated fury. Danny didn't lecture, didn't scold, just sat quietly until Scarl's breathing calmed. Want to talk about it? Danny asked. I can't get the move right. I'm stupid. You're not stupid. You're frustrated. Those are different things. Danny's tone stayed even. That move is hard. Takes practice. Getting angry doesn't make it easier, though. Papa could do it when he was my age. Rolf started to speak, but Danny caught his eye and shook his head slightly. The human continued. Maybe he could. Maybe he couldn't. Doesn't matter. You're not your papa. You're Scarl. You'll learn at your own speed. But I should be strong like him. You will be. Just different strong. Everyone's strong in their own way. Danny ruffled the hatchling's scales gently. How about we try something else for a bit? Come back to combat practice later with fresh eyes. Scarl agreed reluctantly and moved to different activity. The tantrum passed without punishment or forced apologies. Yet Rolf noticed his son was calmer, more focused. The break had actually helped. I would have made him continue practicing until he got it right. Rolf admitted. That works sometimes. Other times it just makes them hate the activity. Danny stood and stretched. Kids need to learn that struggling is okay. That taking breaks isn't quitting. That failure is part of learning. Evenings brought the family together again. Danny cooked dinner with help from whoever wanted to participate. Usually Naira, since she enjoyed the precise measurements cooking required. The meal was eaten together with conversation about the day. Each person shared something good and something challenging. Even Danny participated in the ritual. Rolf found himself talking about his injuries, about the friends he lost in combat, about fear he experienced during battles, things he never would have discussed with warriors. But Danny had explained that children needed to see adults being honest about struggles. It normalized difficult feelings. After dinner, the family played games or watched entertainment together. Simple activities that required no agenda beyond spending time together. Pix usually fell asleep during these times, curled up against whichever adult was closest. The normalcy of it all felt strange to Rolf. His own childhood had been structured around training and achievement. There had been little room for simple togetherness. On the fourth night, after the children were asleep, Rolf and Danny sat in the dim living area. The human cleaned his tools while Rolf reviewed reports. Comfortable silence stretched between them until Rolf finally spoke. I never learned to be soft with them. Danny looked up from his work. Soft isn't weak, Commander. Takes more strength to be gentle than to be hard sometimes. My people don't see it that way. Maybe that's why your people struggle with raising children without causing trauma. Danny's words were blunt, but not unkind. Strength protects, but love nurtures. Kids need both. Rolf thought about his own upbringing. The harsh discipline, The constant testing, the pressure to prove worthiness. He had survived it, become strong because of it. But had he become happy? Had he learned to connect with others? Or had he simply learned to endure? I want better for them, Rolf said quietly. Then give them better. You're already trying. That matters more than you know. Danny set aside his tools. They need to see you learning, see you making mistakes and trying again. That teaches them it's okay to be imperfect. The next morning brought unexpected news. Lieutenant Horvath appeared at the door with orders. Rolf was being recalled to active duty. Another crisis had developed. His specific skills were required. He had 3 days before deployment. The children overheard. Pix began crying immediately. Naira went silent and retreated to her room. Scarl's face hardened into angry mask. The happy peace of the past days shattered instantly. Danny caught Rolf's eye and gestured for him to handle it. This was a father's responsibility. But Rolf felt frozen. His instinct was to explain duty, to make them understand necessity. Danny shook his head slightly and mouthed words. Tell them truth. Rolf gathered his children together, got down to their level instead of standing over them, looked each one in the eyes. I have to go back to war. I don't want to, but people will die if I don't help. He paused. You're angry at me. That's okay. I'm angry too. The honesty seemed to surprise them. Pix stopped crying long enough to listen. Naira emerged from her room. Scarl's anger remained, but he was paying attention. I wish I could stay. Wish I could be here every day like Danny is. But I can't. Rolf struggled with the words. That doesn't mean you don't matter. You matter more than anything. But sometimes I have to do hard things, even when it hurts. Why can't someone else go? Pix asked through tears. Because I have skills others don't. Experience that can save lives. If I stay and others die when I could have helped, I couldn't live with that. Rolf pulled his youngest close. I need you to understand something. Me leaving doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I love you enough to do hard things so you can have a safer future. Danny spoke up quietly. And I'll be here, like before, taking care of you until your papa comes home. Promise? Pix asked, looking at Danny. Promise. Rolf met Danny's eyes over his children's heads, saw the commitment there. The human would keep them safe, would be the constant presence they needed, would fill the role Rolf couldn't. But this time, when Rolf returned, he would be different. He would be the father Danny he showed him was possible. The 3 days before deployment moved too fast and too slow at once. Rolf spent every possible moment with his children, but now he understood what that meant. Not just being present physically, actually engaging with them the way Danny had taught him, that he played their games even when they seemed pointless to his warrior mind. Sat through Naira's long explanations of puzzle strategies. Watched Scarl's combat practice with encouragement instead of criticism. Held Pix during anxious moments without telling him to be braver. Small actions that meant everything. Danny stepped back to give them space, but remained available. Rolf noticed the human doing maintenance work around the quarters. Fixing small things. Preparing supplies. Getting ready for another long absence. The quiet competence was reassuring. On the final evening, Rolf recorded messages for his children. Videos they could watch when they missed him. Danny had suggested it. Shown him how the children treasured the previous messages. This time Rolf spoke differently. Told them he loved them directly. Shared memories of their mother. Admitted his own fears and failures. The words came hard, but felt important. Will you come back? Naira asked as Rolf tucked her into bed that night. Her usual confidence had cracked. Underneath was a scared child trying to be brave. I will do everything in my power to come back. That's all I can promise. Rolf stroked her scales gently. But Danny will be here. He'll take care of you. I know, but I want you too. I want that too. The admission hurt. Remember what Danny taught you about feelings? They're not weakness. Missing me is okay. Being sad is okay. Let Danny help you through it. Scarl refused to say goodbye. He turned his back when Rolf tried to talk to him. The rejection stung, but Danny had warned this might happen. Anger was easier for children than sadness sometimes. Rolf left his eldest son alone, but slipped a note under his pillow. Words about pride and love and promises to return. Pix clung to Rolf and wouldn't let go. The youngest sobbed against his father's chest. No amount of comfort seemed enough. Finally, Danny intervened gently. Pix, your papa needs to go now. But I'm here, just like before. Remember how we got through it before? Danny's voice was calm and steady. We'll do all the same things. Same routines. Same games. Same everything. And before you know it, he'll be home. Pix transferred from Rolf to Danny. Small claws dug into the human's shirt. Danny held him close and met Rolf's gaze over the hatchling's head. The message was clear. He had this. The children would be okay. The docking bay felt colder than before. Lieutenant Horvath waited with other soldiers preparing for deployment. Transport vessels hummed in their berths. Rolf checked his gear one final time and tried not to look back at where Danny stood with all three children. But he did look back. Saw Pix crying openly. Saw Naira holding Danny's hand tightly. Saw Scarl standing apart with crossed arms but watching his father intently. The image burned into Rolf's memory. His family. Incomplete because he was leaving, but still family. Danny raised one hand in farewell. Rolf returned the gesture, then forced himself to board the transport. Duty called, but this time he understood what he was leaving behind. What truly mattered. The war lasted 4 months. Brutal fighting that claimed too many lives. Rolf led his unit through impossible situations. His experience and skill made the difference between victory and catastrophe multiple times. Other commanders relied on his tactical knowledge, his ability to read enemy patterns, his willingness to make hard decisions. But at night, alone in his quarters, Rolf watched videos from home. Danny sent weekly updates, short clips of the children going about their lives, Pix showing off new drawings, Naira explaining a game she invented, Scarl demonstrating improved combat forms. Ordinary moments that meant everything. Danny also sent private messages to Rolf, updates on how each child was really doing. Pix had nightmares the first month. Naira threw herself into learning to avoid feeling. Scarl's anger eventually broke into tears one evening. But Danny was there for all of it, patient and consistent, giving them the stability Rolf couldn't provide. The final battle was the worst. Enemy forces had them surrounded. Rolf took wounds that should have been fatal. His armor saved him, but barely. As he lay in medical bay afterward, watching doctors work on his injuries, he thought about dying, about never seeing his children again, about breaking promises, but he survived, barely, emerged from surgery with new scars added to old ones. The war ended 3 days later. Enemy forces surrendered. Peace negotiations began. Rolf was offered commendations and promotions. He turned them down and requested immediate leave instead. The transport back to Station Gamma 7 took 2 weeks. Rolf spent the time recovering and planning. He had decisions to make. Important ones. The war had clarified what mattered. Now he needed to act on that clarity. Station Gamma 7 appeared in the viewport eventually. Rolf felt his heart's race as the transport docked. This time was different. He wasn't rushing to check on children he barely knew how to care for. He was returning home to family. The corridors seemed brighter than before. Or maybe Rolf just saw them differently now. He moved through the crowds with purpose but not panic. Level 14 arrived. Section C welcomed him. The door to his quarters opened. Music played inside. Human lullabies. The same ones from his first return. Rolf moved quietly through the living area. Everything looked familiar now. Comfortable. He knew where things were kept, which drawings on the wall each child had made, what the schedule would be. The sleeping chamber door stood open. Inside, the same scene greeted him. Danny asleep on floor cushions. 3 hatchlings piled on and around him. Peaceful. Safe. Content. But this time Rolf understood what he was seeing. Not weakness. Strength. The strength to be gentle. To provide comfort. To be present. Rolf lowered himself carefully to the floor. His injuries protested, but he ignored them. He settled near the pile of sleeping bodies and just watched them breathe. His children had grown again. Pix was bigger. Naira's scales had darkened. Scar looked more like a young warrior every day. Danny woke after a few minutes. His eyes opened and found Rolf immediately. A smile crossed the human's weathered face. He carefully extracted himself from the hatchlings and joined Rolf against the wall. "Welcome home, Commander." "Just Rolf. Please." The formality felt wrong now. We're past rank between us. Fair enough. Rolf, it is. Danny stretched carefully. They're going to be so happy you're back. Pix counted days on a calendar. Naira made a welcome home sign. Scarl pretended not to care, but asked about you constantly. Thank you. For everything. Again, Rolf gestured at his sleeping children. I don't know how to repay you. Don't need repayment. This was never about payment. Danny's expression grew serious. But I do need to know something. What happens now? You staying, or is this another temporary visit? Rolf had thought about this question for weeks. Made his decision during long nights between battles. I'm requesting permanent station assignement. No more deployments. I've served enough. Done my duty. Now I need to do my duty here. Danny's eyebrows rose. That's a big change. Necessary change. They need me present. Not just visiting between wars. I can't be that father anymore. Rolf looked at his scarred hands. I want to learn to be the kind of father you showed me was possible. They'll like that. But you know it's hard work, right? Parenting. Being there every day. Handling the small stuff. I know. And I'll need help. Your help. Rolf met Danny's gaze directly. Stay. Not as hired caretaker. As family. They need you as much as they need me now. Danny was quiet for a long moment. Then nodded slowly. All right. But we do this right. Co-parenting. Both of us contributing. Both of us making decisions together. Agreed. Pix stirred in his sleep and mumbled something. Danny moved to settle him automatically. Rolf watched and tried to learn. This was his life now. Not battles and glory. Just daily routine and small moments. It was enough. More than enough that IT was everything. Morning arrived with sunlight filtering through station windows. Pix woke first as usual. His eyes opened slowly and then widened when he saw Rolf. For a moment, the hatchling seemed unsure if he was dreaming. Then he launched himself at his father with a happy shriek that woke everyone else. The reunion was louder and messier than the last one. All three children tried to talk at once, asking questions, showing things, demanding attention. Rolf did his best to keep up while Danny made breakfast with an amused expression. Papa, you have new scars, Naira observed while examining her father closely. Her small claws traced the fresh marks on his scales. Do they hurt? Sometimes. But they're healing. Rolf had learned not to dismiss pain as weakness. The doctors fixed most of the damage. Good. We need you healthy. Naira nodded seriously, then surprised him by hugging him tightly. I missed you. Scarl maintained his distance during breakfast. He ate quickly and avoided looking at Rolf directly. The anger from before still lingered. Danny caught Rolf's eye and shook his head slightly. Get him time. Don't push. After the meal, Pix dragged Rolf to see all his new drawings. Dozens of them covered the walls of his sleeping area. Scenes of family. Pictures of Danny and his siblings. Images of his father in armor. The artwork showed real skill development. Danny taught me shading and perspective. See how this one looks far away. Pix pointed excitedly at each detail. I made this one for your return. It's all of us together. The drawing showed 4 figures. 3 small dragon shapes and 1 large one. But there was a 5th figure too, human-shaped, standing with the family like he belonged there. The image made Rolf's throat tighten. It's perfect. Naira insisted on demonstrating her new mathematical skills. She had progressed far beyond what Rolf expected for her age. Danny had found advanced learning materials suited to her abilities. She solved complex equations with ease and explained her process clearly. The station administrator said I could start advanced courses next term. Danny helped me apply. Naira's pride was obvious. I want to study engineering eventually. Design ships maybe. You'll be excellent at that, Rolf said honestly. His daughter's intelligence had always been remarkable. Now she had direction for it. Scarl finally approached late in the morning. He stood in the doorway of Rolf's room with crossed arms. His expression was carefully neutral, but his tail twitched with agitation. You really staying this time? The question came out aggressive. Or just visiting again? I am staying. Requesté de permanent assignement. No more deployments. Rolf set aside the reports he had been reviewing. I'm done leaving. You said that before. No, I didn't. I said I'd come back. That's different than staying. Rolf gestured for his son to sit. Scarl hesitated, then settled on the floor, but kept his distance. I was wrong before. Wrong about a lot of things. Like what? Like thinking duty to military mattered more than duty to family. Like believing being a warrior was more important than being a father. Rolf met his son's gaze steadily. Danny showed me different. Show me what you all actually needed. I'm trying to be better. Scar was quiet for a long time. What if you change your mind? What if they call you back? Then I'll refuse. There are other warriors. But you three only have one father. Rolf held out his hand. I choose you. All of you. Every time. Scarl stared at the offered hand, then slowly reached out and took it. His small claws gripped tightly. Okay, but if you leave again, I'm going to be really angry. That's fair. The following weeks established new patterns. Rolf remained on station and began transitioning to administrative military duties, overseeing training, consulting on tactics, important work that kept him home every night. Danny maintained his maintenance job, but adjusted his schedule to coordinate with Rolf's. They developed a co-parenting rhythm. Rolf handled morning routines while Danny managed evenings. They alternated who helped with homework, who supervised activities, who handled discipline when needed. The children adapted quickly to having both adults consistently present. Station Administrator Quilvin visited one afternoon to discuss the human caretaker program. It had expanded significantly. Multiple species now requested human childcare workers. The success rate was remarkable. Your situation served as the proof of concept, Quilvin explained. His insectoid features showed satisfaction. Humans possess qualities we didn't fully appreciate. Patience, empathy, adaptability. They connect with children across species barriers. Danny is exceptional even among humans, Rolf said. Perhaps, but we found similar success with other human caretakers. There's something in your species' approach to child-rearing that transcends biology. Quilvin looked at Danny. You've changed perceptions. Humans are no longer seen as merely support species. You're recognized as having unique, valuable traits. Danny looked uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what seemed right. The kids did the hard work of trusting me. After Quilvin left, Rolf found Danny cleaning tools in the maintenance closet. The human worked with his usual quiet efficiency. Rolf leaned against the doorway. You changed my life. You know that. Danny glanced up. You changed mine too. I was just existing before, going through motions. Your kids gave me purpose again. I want to make this official. Adoption into my clan. You be recognized as kin legally. Have all the rights and protections that brings. Rolf had researched the process thoroughly. The children want it. I want it. Question is whether you want it. Danny set down his tools slowly. That's a big step. Legal family. You already are family. This just makes it official. Rolf moved into the small space. I know humans value independence. If you prefer to keep things informal, I understand. But the offer stands. Can I think about it? Of course. 2 days later, Danny gave his answer. Yes. The adoption process began immediately. It required documentation and ceremonies, witnesses and legal approvals. The children participated eagerly, even drawing up their own informal adoption papers declaring Danny their second father. The official ceremony took place in the station's administrative center. Small gathering, just family and a few close friends. Lieutenant Horvath attended along with Dr. Yenna and Administrator Quilvin. The children wore their best clothes and behaved with unusual seriousness. The legal official, an elderly dignitary from Rolf's homeworld, performed the rites in traditional Draxian. The words spoke of bonds beyond blood, of choice creating family, of commitment transcending biology. Danny repeated vows that bound him to the clan. Rolf accepted those vows on behalf of his ancestors. When the ceremony concluded, Pix immediately hugged Danny. You're really our family now. Forever. Was already your family, buddy. This just makes it official. Danny held the youngest hatchling close. Then the others joined. Then Rolf. A pile of beings from different species. Different backgrounds. Different everything. But family nonetheless. Months passed into comfortable routine. Rolf continued his administrative work, and found satisfaction in training the next generation of warriors. He taught them not just combat, but also the importance of family, of being present, of understanding that true strength included gentleness. Danny eventually reduced his maintenance hours to focus more on the children. He started consulting with the human caretaker program, training other humans, sharing what he had learned. His weathered face showed more smiles than before. The loneliness that had marked him was gone. The children thrived. Pix's anxiety decreased significantly with both fathers present. His art became recognized on the station. Several galleries displayed his work. Naira entered advanced courses and excelled. Her mathematical skills impressed even the station's top engineers. Scarl balanced his warrior training with the gentler lessons Danny taught. He learned that strength and compassion could coexist. One evening, Rolf sat on the balcony overlooking the station's main hub. Danny joined him with 2 cups of tea. They watched the activity below in comfortable silence. Ships came and went. People lived their lives. The galaxy continued its endless motion. "Never thought I'd end up here," Danny said quietly. Single father to 3 dragon children. Part of an alien clan. Living on a space station. Never thought I'd share my family with a human janitor. Rolf smiled. "But I can't imagine it any other way now. Think we're doing okay? As parents, I think we're doing our best. That's all anyone can do." Rolf sipped his tea. The children are happy, healthy, learning, growing. That's what matters. Behind them, sound of the children playing drifted through the open door, arguing about game rules, laughing, being kids. Normal sounds at once seemed impossible. Now, they were everyday music. I spent so long thinking strength meant being hard, unyielding, powerful. Rolf set down his cup. "You taught me that real strength is being soft when needed, being present, being patient. Those are harder than any battle. And you taught me I could still matter, that I wasn't just surviving anymore, that I could be important to someone again." Danny's voice carried emotion. "We both needed this. The kids gave us that. No, we gave each other that. You showed me how to be a father. I gave you a family. Fair exchange." Pix appeared in the doorway. His scales were covered in paint. He had been working on another art project. "Papa, Danny, come see what I made. It's for both of you." They followed him inside. The painting showed a family scene. 2 adult figures, one large and scaled, one smaller and smooth-skinned. 3 small dragons playing around them. Everyone was together. Everyone was smiling. Everyone belonged. "It's us," Pix explained unnecessarily. "Our family. I wanted to capture how it feels. Safe and happy." Rolf knelt beside his youngest son. "It's beautiful. Perfect." Danny stood behind them. His hand rested on Rolf's shoulder. A gesture of affection and partnership. "We should frame this. Put it somewhere everyone can see it." That night, after the children slept, Rolf stood in the doorway watching them. 3 hatchlings piled together peacefully. No nightmares. No anxiety. Just deep, restful sleep. Danny joined him. "This is enough," Rolf said softly. "Everything I fought for. Everything I nearly died for. It all led here. To this moment. To this family." "Yeah," Danny agreed. "It's more than enough. It's everything." They closed the door quietly and settled in the living area. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The children would grow. Life would continue its complications. But they would face it together. 2 fathers from different worlds, united by love for 3 dragon children who had needed them both. The battle-scarred warrior had returned home to find peace. Not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of family. And the human janitor who had been alone found purpose. Not in grand heroics, but in daily acts of care. Together, they proved that family transcended biology, that strength wore many faces, that humans had gifts the galaxy was only beginning to understand, and that sometimes the most important battles were fought not with weapons, but with patience, presence, and love.